The Strait of Hormuz is narrow, but its importance is enormous. Every day, millions of barrels of oil pass through this maritime checkpoint between Iran and Oman. In 2024, the figure was around 20 million barrels per day, roughly one-fifth of global petroleum liquid consumption. Most of that energy was not traveling to the United States. It was heading to Asia, especially China, Japan, India, and also South Korea. That creates what we call Hormuz paradox. The United States carry much of the military burden of securing the route. Asian economy carry much of the economy risk if the route is disrupted. And Iran, despite being conventionally weaker than the United States, has enough geographical and asymmetric leverage to make both sides vulnerable. So good evening everyone, my name is Gamin Rodel Laukan and welcome to Hormuz Paradox, America, Secure Asia Defense and Iran Leverage. Our central argument tonight is simple. The US-Iran conflict is not a direct rivalry between two great powers. Iran is a regional power. However, the Strait of Hormuz turned that regional conflict into an arena of great power competition. Because Iran's ability to threaten maritime traffic can test maritime security credibility, expose Asia energy depends and shape the calculation of China and Russia. So the real question is not only whether Iran can close the strait. It is how a weaker regional actor can use geography to impose disproportionate costs on a stronger adversary and on the wider global economy. Joining me tonight are five specialists. First one is Asia, Middle East Research Associate with Chatham House. The second one, Tashola Kabu, Iran and Gulf Affairs Researcher with the International Research Group. And we have Emiliana Rojo, or Lily, International Relations Research Fellow with the S. Rajaratnam School of International Study. We have Sabrina Hadari, Great Power Competition Analyst with the Center of Strategy and International Study. And lastly, we have Nur Paranazwani Vitilapo, Asia Energy and Maritime Security Researcher with the International Institute for Strategic Studies. Thank you for all joining us.
Thank you.
Before we begin, I have one quick question to all of you. When you look at Strait of Hormuz, what do you see first? May we start with Chiang?
I see unresolved history. Maybe new crisis between US and Iran. It's shaped by other grievance.
I see. And what do you touch?
For me, I see a security dilemma. One side describes their own action as defensive, but interpret the other side's action as threatening.
For me, I see competing meanings. A warship, a missile, or a nuclear facility is never interpreted neutrally.
And Sabrina?
I personally see asymmetric leverage where Iran cannot match American power globally, but it can make one viral maritime space very costly to secure.
And lastly,
Okay, on my side, I see economic transmission. A maritime crisis in the Gulf can become inflation, shipping delays, and higher living costs across ASEAN.
Thank you so much. So history, its security, perception, leverage, and economy exposure. Chiang, let us begin with the history. Chiang, many discussions about Iran begin with nuclear enrichment, missile or tanker incident. Why should we begin in 1953?
Because current tensions are interpreted through history. 1953, Iranian Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh was removed after nationalizing the Anglo-Iran Oil Company. The crop was supported by British and American intelligence. For many Iranians, the event became proof that the US was willing to interfere in Iran politics when Iran sovereignty challenged Western strategy and economic interests. Later, the US developed a close relationship with Pahlavi. His government pursued rapid modernization and westernization, but he was also a soft character with political expression, inequality, and dependency on Western support that began the 1979 Iranian Revolution. The revolution overthrew the Shah and created an Islamic Republic that defined itself partly through opposition to American influence.
Ah, you see. And the hostage prison shared American perception of Iran.
Okay, yes, American diplomatic personnel were held hostage in Iran for 444 days. That event deeply affected American political memory. Iran came to be viewed not only as a rival, but as hostile to the US. The Iran-Iraq War reinforced Iran's suspicion in the oversight direction. American support for Iran contributed to Tehran's belief that Washington was willing to weaken the Islamic Republic through regional
You see. But history alone does not explain why they remain enemies. So how does the past actually affect the present behavior?
Historian lesson figure. When the United States deploys force in the Gulf, Washington called it deterrence. Iran linked the same deployment to intervention, sanction, and fear of regime change. When Iran developed missiles or strength regional harness, Tehran called it defense. The US linked those actions to revolutionary ideology. Attacks by Iran allied group and threats to its allies. So history does not make conflict inevitable, but it makes also interpretation more relatable.
I see. So the past does not control the present, which is how the present is understood.
Exactly, that is why even technical issues such as nuclear monitoring quickly becomes a broader question of sovereignty, credibility, and regime survival.
Tasha, you identify two major factors behind the conflict within the politician. This one. The second one, the nuclear dispute, and lastly, theological hostility. Are these separate causes?
They are separate for analysis, but in reality they reinforce one another. Regional rivalry gives the conflict its strategic environment. The nuclear issue raises the stakes. Political identity makes a compromise more difficult.
Does Iran seek dominance or is it mainly defending itself?
For me, both interpretation contains some truth. The United States maintains process, military facilities, and defense partnership across the Middle East, especially with Israel and Gulf states. Washington described this as necessary for deterrence, freedom of navigation, and regional stability. Iran sees something different. For Tehran's view, American forces close to its border, while Washington supports several of Iran's regional opponents. Iran responds by building relationships with armed and political actors in Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and Yemen. These links give Iran strategic lead. They allow Tehran to impose costs beyond its own territory and discourage adversaries from assuming that an attack on Iran will remain limited.
So by calling it as a defense, it can hide attention.
Exactly. Understanding Iran's security rationale does not mean defending every Iranian action. Its regional activities also expand Iranian influence, threaten neighboring states, and deepen insecurity. A policy can be defensive in intention but expansionist in effect. That is why the conflict is hard to stabilize. Both sides claim to be protecting order, but what's also contribute to the other side's insecurity.
So just like wondering, why is it the nuclear issue so difficult to resolve?
For me, because it is not only about whether Iran currently has a nuclear weapon, Iran accused that enrichment for peaceful purpose is part of its sovereign right under the nuclear non-proliferation framework. The United States and its allies focus on the dual-use nature of that capability. The concern is that advanced enrichment, reduced transparency, or weakened inspections could shorten the time needed to move towards a weapon of Iran-made that decision. So, the dispute is about capability, intention, and trust.
So in 2015, if you remember, the nuclear-driven economy managed that problem.
Yes, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action restricts part of Iran's nuclear activities and introduced inspection mechanism in exchange for sanctions relief. It did not create friendship, but it created a way to manage mistrust. The major turning point came when the US withdrew in 2018 and restored sanctions. Iran then had less incentive to continue accepting this restriction.
So you mean by that, the pressure did not simply
Yes.
force violence?
No, it also encouraged adaptation. Washington increased pressure to force concessions. Tehran expanded parts of its nuclear activity to improve its bargaining position. Then Washington used that expansions to justify even more pressure. It became a cycle.
So, Tasha, does the ideology still matter when both states clearly pursue material interests?
For me, it matters because interests are interpreted through political identity. The Islamic Republic present resistance to American domination as part of revolutionary legitimacy. In the US, Iran is often described as deceptive, ravicious, and destabilizing. These narratives shape public opinion and limit what leaders can do. As Iranian leader who compromise to openly with Washington may be accused of betraying revolutionary principles. An American leader who offers concession may be accused of rewarding aggressions. So hostility becomes politically useful.
So, let's say, if you had to summarize the three factors, what is it?
For me, regional rivalry explains why the conflict lasts. The nuclear issue explains why it becomes dangerous. Identity explains why compromise keeps failing.
Thank you so much.
So we move to our next candidate.
Lily, let us move from the causes of theory. Which theory explains the conflict best?
Realism gives us the strongest starting point. The US wants to preserve regional influence, protect allies, maintain maritime access, and prevent Iran from gaining capabilities that would limit American freedom of action. Iran presents a stronger military power, severe actions, and a wide network of US partnerships. So Iran's missiles, nuclear capacity, and regional relationships can be understood as tools of this field as a security dilemma. The US increases its presence to deter Iran. Iran interprets that presence as threatening and strengthens its armed capabilities. The US then treats those capabilities as proof that its military presence was necessary.
But does that create a false equivalence? The two states are not equal in power.
That is an important criticism. A security dilemma explains commercial threat perception. It does not mean both sides have equal power or equal responsibility. The US has much greater conventional and structural power. Iran relies on asymmetric methods partly because it cannot compete conventionally. So there is a mutual insecurity but not symmetry.
So Lily, I'm just wondering, like, what realism does this mean?
It struggles to explain decisions shaped by domestic politics and ideology. For example, If the nuclear agreement constrains Iran and improve monitoring, a narrow realist view might expect the US to preserve it. The US withdrawal is easier to understand when we include domestic politics, leadership beliefs, and symbolic hostility towards Iran.
I see. So, what does liberalism?
Liberalism explains why cooperation was possible. The nuclear agreement created rules, inspections, and reciprocal obligations. The IAEA did not eliminate mistrust, but inspections reduced the need to rely only on worst-case assumptions. Sanctions relief also gave Iran a material incentive to comply. But the case also shows liberalism's weaknesses. Institutions depend on political commitment. A multilateral agreement may be technically useful, but it remains vulnerable if a powerful state decides to withdraw.
For me, and interdependence did not automatically create peace. It's become perceived through sanctions.
Exactly. Economic connection can create mutual benefit, but it can also create vulnerability. A state that can control finance, insurance, and market access can use those networks to pressure others. So, interdependence does not always reduce conflict. Sometimes it becomes a weapon.
I see. And how about constructivism?
Oh, constructivism explains why material capabilities do not have one fixed meaning. Iran does not see an American carrier group as only ships and aircraft. It sees a symbol of foreign intervention and caution. Washington does not see an Iranian missile as only military hardware. It sees a weapon linked to a revolutionary state and its regional networks. Those meanings shape trade perception. Constructivism also explains why compromise is politically difficult. If Iran defines itself through resistance, cooperation with Washington can appear dangerous. If American discourse defines Iran as permanently untrustworthy, even verifiable concessions may be treated as deception.
But, as we know, identity is better everything.
Correct. Why? Because Iran faces real military pressure. The US has real alliances and strategic interests. Ideas shape how military realities are interpreted, but they do not replace those realities.
So, after you say about these three theories, what your final critical judgment?
Okay, my final theoretical judgment. Realism best explains the strategic structure of this conflict. Liberalism explains why cooperation was temporarily possible and why institutional breakdown increased uncertainty. Constructivism explains why mistrust remains politically powerful. The theories are strongest when used together but at different levels of explanation.
Alright, thank you so much for the explanation. So next I want to ask Sabrina.
Alright, Sabrina. This is the conceptual challenge. Iran is not a great power, so why analyze this through great power competition?
Thank you for your question. We should not describe the US-Iran conflict as a rivalry between two equal great powers. No, they would exaggerate Iran's status. However, the stronger argument is that the conflict operates as an arena of great power politics, GPC. The competition is over maritime security, energy access, sanctions enforcement, alliance credibility, diplomatic influence, and also regional order. Hormuz does not make Iran a great power. It gives Iran issue-specific structural leverage. Iran can use one export choke point to affect the interests of actual great powers.
So I see. So, as we know, the United States is a military superior, right? Where does the Iranian leverage coming from?
It is actually from geography and asymmetric strategy. The US can project naval and air power across the region. Iran, on the other side, cannot match American carriers, aircraft, or even global command systems. However, Iran does not need sea control. It can pursue sea denial. Sea control means controlling a maritime area and preventing others from using it. Sea denial is different. It means making the area dangerous, uncertain, or costly for others. Iran can attempt this through naval mines, anti-ship missiles, drones, coastal systems, and also fast attack boats.
So why do relatively cheap tools method get stronger now?
Because they impose disproportionate costs. A naval mine may be cheap to deploy, but responding to it requires surveillance, mine clearance, escorts, delays, and also higher insurance. The threat also affects private actors. Tankers may slow down, insurers may raise premiums, shipping companies may demand protection. Iran can use all of this and create uncertainty at a relatively low cost, while the US and commercial actors must spend far more to manage it.
So you see that through your explanation, you want to say that Iran does not need to close the strait permanently?
Exactly. Permanent closure would be costly and difficult for Iran. Limited disruption may be more useful. A tanker seizure, mine incidents, or missile threat can create pressure while staying below the threshold of a full-scale war. This creates a dilemma for Washington. If the US responds weakly, allies may doubt its credibility. However, if it responds too strongly, a limited crisis may become a wider war.
Sorry, Dave. Sabrina, does that assume Iran can control how its signal is interpreted?
That is actually the central risk. A calibrated action is only calibrated if the other side reads that way. Iran may intend limited signaling, but the US or its allies may interpret it as a preparation for a larger attack. That is how deterrence can slip into escalation.
So from this, I can see that the military danger is not only the firepower, but you want to say it's the interpretation.
You got it right.
Alright, Sabrina, let us move from military risk to market risk. How does the trend in the trade become global economic shock?
It is actually through 4 channels. First, physical supply risk. If ships are delayed, less oil and gas reach importing states. Second, expectation. Markets react to the probability of disruptions before a blockade actually happens. Third, maritime costs. Insurers raise war risk premiums and shipping firms face delays and security expenses. And fourth, limited substitution. Saudi Arabia and the UAE have pipelines that can bypass Hormuz. However, it is important for me to add that they cannot replace the total volume normally transported through the strait. So, Hormuz is not impossible to bypass, of course. However, it is extremely difficult to replace in the short term.
So what do you mean here that oil does not need to stop moving for economic damage to begin?
Exactly, you are right. A credible threat can already create costs. A shipping company may delay departure, an insurer may increase prices, and importing government may search for alternative supplies. These decisions create real economic pressure before a full shortage appears.
I see. So from here, this is where Asian becomes central.
Yes, again, most of the crude oil and condensate transported through Hormuz goes to Asian markets. As you mentioned before, China, India, Japan, and South Korea are major destinations. Direct American independence is much lower. That creates the Hormuz paradox, where the US carries much of the military security burden, while Asian economies receive much of the direct energy benefit.
Could that also mean the US uses security provision as influence?
Yes, you're right, and that is the key analytical point. Both things can be true. The US provides security that benefits many countries, including its competitors. However, that role also gives Washington's influence. It helps define threats, organize coalitions, and reassure regional partners. So, American maritime security is both a public good and a source of strategic hierarchy.
I see. But as we know, economic dimension is not only about oil prices, right?
Yes.
And how do the sanctions fit in?
Good question, Roger. Sanctions shows that economic power comes from controlling networks. The US uses its influence over banking, finance, insurance, shipping compliance, and also market access to pressure Iran. Secondary sanctions extend that pressure beyond American firms. A foreign company may avoid Iran because it fears losing access to US markets or even financial systems. So, I want to say that interdependence becomes a tool of coercion.
I just like one thing, does it work?
Personally, it imposes serious costs. However, it does not complete exhibition. Iran adapts through discounted oil sales, alternative buyers, informal financial channels, and also shadow shipping networks. China, as an example, and other buyer can reduce the effect of Western pressure, although they may demand low prices. Sanctions weaken Iran. Yes. However, they also encourage alternative networks outside Russian control. That is why this is not merely an economic dispute. It is also a struggle over the rules and infrastructures of global trade.
Thank you so much, Sabrina, for that explanation. But if you mind, we will turn to China. As we know, China challenging the United States, right, in the goal of benefiting from order Washington still secure.
So currently, at present, China is more of an economic and diplomatic competitor rather than a replacement security provider. China depends heavily on Gulf energy and wants stability, but it has been cautious about taking on the military cost of securing the region. Instead, Beijing builds influence through trade, infrastructure, diplomacy, and strategic partnership. Its role in the Saudi-Iran diplomatic restoration in 2023 demonstrate that China wants to be recognized as a political actor in the Middle East.
So does that mean that diplomacy is easier when the United States provide hard security?
Exactly. China wants influence without reproducing the American military footprint. That is efficient while the US-led order works. However, it also leaves China exposed because much of its energy depends on groups whose security is still shaped by Washington. The question is whether China can become a leading Middle Eastern power while remaining partly dependent on a security order maintained by its strategic rival.
Just like wondering, what are your thoughts on Russia?
Russia is a bit funny story because Russia's role is more indirect. Higher energy prices may benefit Russia as an exporter. A prolonged conflict in the Gulf may also divide American attention between the Middle East, Europe, and the Indo-Pacific. Russia and Iran cooperate in resisting Western pressure. However, it is important for me to say that we should not exaggerate. Severe instability can also threaten partners and complicate Russian diplomacy. Russia may seek opportunity, but not unlimited chaos.
I see. So, based from your explanation, just like, does China, Russia, and Iran are united anti-American war?
You sure to ask many questions, but I would like to say no. They share dissatisfaction with parts of the US-led order, but their priorities differ. China wants stable trade and energy. Russia, however, may gain from higher prices and divided US attention. Iran itself prioritizes regional survival and also strategic autonomy. Their cooperation between the three is real, but very selective.
I see. Thank you so much, Sabrina, for that. I think we can move to Farhanazwani. So I'm just like wondering, Farhanazwani, what is the biggest security danger in Hormuz?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rodell. The biggest security danger in Hormuz is miscalculation. Okay, why? Why I say like that? Because the Gulf is crowded with American naval forces, Iranian units, commercial tankers, drones, missiles, and regional arms groups. A maneuver intended as a warning may be interpreted as preparation for attack. A tanker's seizure may trigger retaliation. A limited strike means to restore deterrence may produce another response, and the conflict can escalate even if neither side originally wants a full war.
So does that mean an alliance within the battlefield?
Yes. The United States has close relationship with Israel and Gulf states. Iran worked with regional armed and political partners. A confrontation in Hormuz may not remain in Hormuz. It could produce tension in Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Yemen, and elsewhere.
So there is also gradual militarization. If diplomacy appear unable to manage Iran's nuclear activities, neighboring states may increase defense spending on stronger security guarantee. That does not make a nuclear arm, as you know, that rise inevitable, but it increases strategic anxiety. Is it?
Yes, exactly, Mr. Rodell. The absence of open war doesn't mean stability. They can remain trade in repeated mobilization, signaling, and counter-signaling.
I see. Let's move to the next one. But thank you for the explanation. For you, how does maritime crisis enter daily life of people in Asia?
Okay, for me, maritime crisis into the daily life of people in Asia through price and production.
I see.
Okay, for example, higher oil price increase transport costs, and higher transport costs affect food distribution, manufacturing, and consumer goods. Natural gas disruption can increase electricity and industrial costs. And then higher shipping and fertilizer price can also affect food price. So the crisis moved from the street into the household living expense.
So, that's why I'm just wondering what's in your mind or what your point, which Asian states are more exposed?
I think Asian states are most exposed like China, India, Japan, and South Korea have significant exposure. It is because of their dependence on import Gulf energy, but the risks are not identical. Japan and South Korea are highly import dependent, but they have advanced economic strategy, result in strong state capacity. About China has larger purchasing power and diplomatic reach, but its huge energy demand make disruption difficult to absorb fully. About India is the most balanced energy affordability with its strategic relationship with the United States. Its ties with Iran and its partnership with Gulf states. And lastly, about Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia economies may have difference, but have different import pattern, but they still face import inflation because global energy, shipping, and insurance market are connected.
Thank you so much, Renazoni. So does that mean the social impact is uneven?
Yes, social impact is uneven. Higher fuel and food price affect lower income, also more severely. Government may need to increase subsidies, reduce development spending, or pass costs to consumers. Okay, an energy shock can become a domestic political problem.
So I just have another question in my mind. Can diversification solve the problem?
I think it can reduce vulnerability over time. States can diversify suppliers, train strategic reserve, improve energy efficiency, and invest in alternative energy. Gulf producers can expand bypass routes. By these measures take time. They cannot immediately replace the volume moving through Hormuz.
I see. Thank you so much, Renazoni. So how might the crisis reshape international relations?
The first effect is greater hatred. Gulf states may continue relying on the United States for military protection while deepening trade and investment with China. Okay, they may also maintain engagement in Russia and Iran to keep multiple options open. This is not necessarily a commitment of Washington. It's a strategy to avoid excessive dependence on one major power.
I see. So what about Asian importers?
About Asian importers, Japan and South Korea will likely maintain their U.S. alliance with strengthening energy diplomacy with Gulf producers. India will continue balancing between Washington, Tehran, and Gulf Arab states. Okay, about China may see a larger diplomatic role because instability direct threatens its energy security. But about Beijing, Beijing will probably remain cautious about assuming the full military responsibilities carried by the United States.
Oh, okay. So, for the Lonnie, do you think this can weaken American leadership?
It depends on how Washington behaves. If the US protects navigation while controlling escalation, its role may be strengthened. If it's seen as contributing to instability or relying on coercion without diplomacy, partners may diversify more quickly. About military dominance and political leadership are not the same. A state can have the strongest military and still lose influence if others view its policies as unpredictable.
I see that. Thank you so much, Partner Lonnie, for the explanation. So, I would like to move to another question over here. If closure will damage Iran's own economy and harm its Asian buyer, is the threat less critical than it is?
May I answer first?
Okay, sure. Thank you.
So, a permanent closure is less rational than limited disruption. Iran gets more leverage from showing that it can create costs than from destroying a good it also needs.
Okay, for me, but we should not assume leaders always calculate perfectly. If Iranian leaders believe regime survival is at stake, they may accept costs that look irrational from outside.
For me, material costs matter, but ideas like honor, creativity, and existential trait shape how those costs are judged.
So here I can conclude that the threat is constrained but not empty, right? So I think I have another question with Chiang. Chiang, could we simply call this a regional conflict with a global impact?
That criticism is valid if our competition is used too loosely. The framework is useful only when we identify a real content over influence, that is, rules or order. Those elements are present here. The US seeks to present security leadership. China seeks stable energy access and greater diplomatic influence. Russia looks for strategic opportunity and way to resist Western. The conflict between an arena or power competition because this interest shape how major power respond.
Yes, however, the framework must not erase visual agency. Iran and Gulf states are not passive. Iran uses geography to create leverage. Gulf states hedge among major powers. Regional actors can exploit geopolitical priorities to expand their options.
I see that. So I think I would like to move to it. If the nuclear agreement failed to create lasting trust, why should not agreement succeed?
Actually, because the choice is not between a perfect agreement and no risk. It is between an imperfect agreement and unmanaged escalation. Future arrangements need stronger verification, clearer sequencing, and more protection against sudden political reversal. No institution can remove political risk completely, but it can reduce uncertainty and create communication.
See that.
So for me, a nuclear agreement alone will also be insufficient. Basically, regional arms group sanction and fear of regime change will remain. Trying to solve everything in one agreement may be unrealistic, but ignoring the border security environment makes any nuclear agreement fragile.
Alright. Thank you so much, Tasha. So, here we are. I'm just wondering, one priority from each of you. What will reduce the danger without pretending the conflict can be solved overnight?
Regional recognize historical mistrust without allowing it to control policy. Negotiation must understand but why both sides doubt each other communities.
For me, separate crisis management from final settlement, maritime communication, and reconciliation should not wait for a comprehensive political agreement.
So for me, restore credible nuclear verification. Reducing uncertainty matters because worst case assumptions drive escalation.
Me personally, I believe that they should build a more multilateral maritime security framework. Asian beneficiaries do not all need to deploy warships, but they can contribute to intelligence sharing, crisis coordination, maritime surveillance, strategic reserves, and also emergency planning.
Okay, about me, I think reduce long-term energy exposure through diversification, strategic reserve and regional coordination, while recognizing that peace cannot replace Hormuz immediately.
So like, my priority is different with communication. And military credibility without communication creates fear. Communication without credible limits create doubt, but both are necessary. So I think all of us are in this discussion, right? So I would like to conclude all of this. Are you okay with that? Okay. So I think, Sabrina, would you bring all our discussions together?
Yes, of course. So after hearing all of this, the US-Iran conflict is not the result of one nuclear disagreement or one maritime incident. It developed through historical intervention, revolutionary change, regional rivalry, sanctions, failed diplomacy, and also repeated threat perception. From this perception, realism explains why both states pursue security and influence. Liberalism explains why institutions such as the nuclear agreement could temporarily reduce uncertainty. Constructivism, on the other hand, explains why both societies continue to interpret each other through narratives shaped by the coup, the revolution, the hostage crisis, and also decades of confrontation. The strength of Hormuz gives this rivalry global significance. Iran cannot match the United States in conventional military power, but it does not need sea control. Its capacity for sea denial and calibrated disruptions allows it to impose disproportionate costs on a stronger adversary and on energy-dependent economies. However, it's important for me to add that this does not make Iran a great power. It gives Iran issue-specific structural leverage. The conflict becomes an arena of GPC because it affects American security leadership, Chinese energy dependence, Russian strategic calculation, and the diplomatic choices of Gulf and also Asian states. But regional actors are not passive. Iran itself uses geography to create leverage. Gulf states hedge between American security and Chinese economic engagement. Asian importers adjust their energy and diplomatic strategies. The deeper significance of Hormuz is not only the amount of oil passing in. No, it is the concentration of military risk, economic dependence, and also political power in one narrow maritime corridor. The US provides much of the security. Asia carries much of the dependence. Iran holds the immediate disruptive leverage. China, however, seeks influence without assuming the full military burden. Russia finally searches for opportunity without necessarily wanting unlimited instability. That combination, my friends, makes this threat of Hormuz more than an energy choke point. It is actually a test of whether the international systems can manage shared vulnerability without allowing deterrence, economic cohesion, and regional rivalry to become a pathway to wider conflict.
Thank you so much, Sabrina. So from the discussion, it brings us to final question, which is, the final question is not only whether Iran could disrupt this trade of Hormuz, but it is whether the global system will concentrated dependence can remain stable when the actor most capable of creating destruction is also the actor that feels most threatened by surrounding order. So, my name is Gavin Rodelauskan. Thank you for joining us.